Hello, everyone. Today we are joined by Miss Nivedita Das Narayan. She's a life coach. She works with young adults just like us. And today we're going to be discussing topics like social media addiction and creating healthy boundaries around social media. So I really hope this session is informative. And yes, let's start with it.
Thank you, Akansha. Happy to be here with the two of you. Looking forward to having some interesting chit chat on social media about social media.
It's really nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Okay, so just to begin, um, I think what we all want to know and what we all face in our everyday lives is the endless scrolling, whether it be on Instagram, YouTube, other social media applications. And I think the biggest problem that no one has really talked about or addressed as yet is what are some warning signs that indicate a child may be experiencing negative effects from social media. We all know there are several negative effects. We all know that children, preteens, teens may be experiencing these. But if I per se am not experiencing it, or I am, but I want to figure out if someone else, maybe a friend, a cousin, etc., is, what are the steps I can take, or what are some signs that indicate that?
Yes, are you asking me about the signs or the steps to?
The signs.
Yeah, a bit of both actually. So, like obviously the signs to indicate what exactly are the signs to see if they are or are not facing these negative effects. And if they are, what kind of other steps that we could maybe take to help them or approach them, if there are any at all.
Okay, I will roll this off in the sense that I will talk about some of the effects that are very apparent and obvious for everyone to see. There are some hidden signs that we will unravel as we go along, but
Right.
the most default sign of social media addiction, if I may use the word, is going to be that at any point of time your phone is at your hip or in your palm. You are forever looking down at any point of time. If somebody, even if somebody is talking to you, you're looking down at the phone, right? At any point of time you find yourself scrolling. Yeah, so basically the phone is your talking to your phone. When I say talking to your phone, you're actually, this is, you're practically looking down all the time, more often than looking at the face of people, looking into the eyes of the people you're talking to. Yeah, that's the most telltale sign. You would have seen many, and that does not, uh, you know, it's not restricted to young teens or young adults. It's all over. You see someone walking down the road, you will see them with a phone in their hand. You will see people talking to each other with the phone in their hand and their eyes scrolling what is there on the phone rather than looking at the person across, right? So that's the most obvious sign of it. I when we were talking before this, you were talking about FOMO, right?
Right.
Right. FOMO is, in fact, a hidden symptom of social media addiction. If you look at it, FOMO is really your, when, what will happen if I switch off from social media? If today I delete my account or delete the app from my phone or from my access device, why am I not able to do it? It's because I have fear of the life happening out there, right?
Yeah.
True. So more often than not, we are looking at FOMO as a entity in itself, but really FOMO is a symptom of social media addiction again, right? There's something else called anxiety, right? We hear of anxiety disorders. We hear of people being in therapy because of anxiety, right? Anxiety again is a part of is a sign of is a warning sign of social media addiction. Anxiety about having posted something and going back to it again and again to see how many likes I've got. Yeah. The anxiety that it causes when you see somebody being nasty to you in the comment section, you know.
Mm.
So either you're anxious about not being liked, or you're anxious about being disliked, which possibly in that moment of having posted something and thinking about the reaction to that post, you're full of anxiety, right? That's again a telltale sign. For example, the difference between addiction and just being a social media user is you post something and you forget about it, and you come back to it maybe later in the day to see, hey, what have my friends said about me. Whereas the signs of overusage is when you're feeling anxious about what's the reaction to my post. Can you relate to these ones?
Yeah.
Um, I think when you said about, like coming back and seeing how many likes or views that have, been on one particular post by me, I kind of just like today I posted, I think, a story on my Instagram, and I think in under 10 minutes I just went to see how many people saw. And it's not just today. I've noticed that I've done this like almost every time I post a story. I have to go back in like 10-15 minutes to see, like, who's seen it, who hasn't. And if sometimes that in about an hour or something I have like 70 views, and then another day it's like 200. So I think I relate to that so much because I do it so often. And yeah, I never noticed it, but now when you were telling us about it, I kind of realized that, hey, I do that like quite a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
I think personally for me, I don't really post that much, nor do I use my stories that much. However, something that you didn't actually mention that actually from you speaking about stories and posts, I realize is the fact that people today have way more than one account. Some people have a main account where they accept everyone to get to know people. Some people have private accounts and spam accounts where they can only have their closest of friends,
Mm-hmm,
or a spam account where they can, which is the account they use to actually post and upload stories, whereas their main is just empty. So only people they wish to see that content will be allowed to see that content because it's a private account. And
mm-hmm,
sure, people can go and think about the likes and views and the stories and the posts, but something that goes under the radar quite a bit is, what if you're not on one of those accounts? What if you're not
mm,
that close to a person who you originally thought you were close to, and you see
mm,
that they have another account that you're not even considered an acquaintance on?
mm,
So that kind of difference in level of friendship, where I may
mm,
think someone's my best friend when they just see me as an acquaintance, is
mm,
really something to take into consideration as someone who's faced this in the past. So I know that I've actually gotten follow requests from alt accounts or spam accounts or private accounts of my friends. But when I
mm-hmm.
follow request them back, they either delete my follow request or don't accept it at all, which shows that I'm not close enough to them for them to want me on that account.
Now, okay, great. Thanks for that sharing, Zias. How does that make you feel when that request is not acknowledged? How does that make
Um,
you?
I think when you're physically looking in front of you at your phone on your screen, and you're seeing someone who seemingly wants to be your friend is showing interest in you, but
Mm-hmm,
then 2 seconds later won't accept your follow request because then they decide they're not close enough to you, it does feel a bit as if you're trying more than that person to be close to them. Now, this
mm,
depends on the situation as well, as you may also have other accounts which you don't want them to see and expect them to allow you on theirs, but don't want them to be on yours.
mm,
And this can go many different ways, but personally, it is a bit saddening, of course, when
mm,
you see someone you expect to be so close to and then they act in a certain way that shows. something completely different.
Yeah, so you see how the unit of measurement of someone's degree of friendship towards you, the entire unit of measurement, if we were to measure a good friend, very good, excellent, not so good, if these were the various uh, units of friendship,
Yeah.
and you feel, oh my god, where do I fall? And the whole measurement is being done by that one act of acknowledgement or acceptance of your request, or you know your mind spiraling into all those areas that you just did when you said, okay, this person also has a second account. I sent him a friend request and they did not, and this whole calculation that is going on. And to from all angles, this is such an unnecessary part of uh, any friendship, right? That you are measuring something with some things which are so intangible. Yeah. And you said you spoke about sadness, right?
Yeah.
What happens when you feel that? What happens? What do you do to get out of that state of mind, for example?
So personally, I feel like the reason it's so saddening is obviously because it's kind of like a ranking system where only the
Mm.
closest people to that particular person, let's say person A has three accounts. One is his main, one is for his close friends, and then the third is for his super best friends only. And in that scenario, if you're only on his main or only on his main and his close friends, then you're not on one or two of those accounts, then you fall into a certain category in that person A's mind where you're worthy of a certain ranking system of accounts. So you're worthy of
Mhm.
his main, you're worthy of his close friends, but you're not really that worthy of his super close friends, super best friends. So that is kind of the ranking system that gets formed in your own head, which makes you think,
Mm.
why am I not good enough for this person? Which kind of
Yeah.
sends you spiraling in like an anxiety loop. And
Mm.
for me, in this particular scenario, I haven't really faced that many repercussions from it, and I haven't really thought too much about that in a certain scenario where, I'll be honest, I haven't been accepted on some of my friends' accounts, and that is sad to see sometimes. But when that kind of happens, I do get sometimes shocked at
Mm.
the kind of uh reaction where I'm just like, okay, I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that to be in that certain way. Like, you may be like, okay, don't accept me. That's fine. I understand we're not the closest of friends. But when you expect a certain level of friendship from that person and those expectations aren't met, then that's when you get disappointed and then start overthinking and doubting who you are as a person. So I think that's maybe partly what happens with me sometimes. But thankfully, I haven't really gone that deep into it yet, and hopefully never will.
Yeah, that's a smart way of looking at it. Akansha, what would you do? I'm just assuming that something like this may have happened with you. And how do you react to a situation like this?
I think rather than talking about that, because I don't send a lot of follow requests because I have the kind of anxiety about, like what if they don't like accept me? So I usually ask them in person before, requesting to follow them, because it's kind of for my mental health, because like I don't want to be in that kind of category. But what when Zias talked about having three accounts, I think I related to it most because I do have three accounts. And so my first account is obviously like my main one is for parents, like basically everyone I know, at least even by name, I follow them or they follow me. And that's how my first account works. My second account works, like over the years, if I've had like groups of friends, because, as teenagers, we never always have like that one constant friend group. We always, have changing friend groups, changing friends. So, if I've ever been part of like a close friend group like that, those are the group of friends that follow my second account. And my third
Mm.
account is like my current most closest friends that, I feel like is a long term thing for me, right? So when he talked about, people like a ranking system, I think what came to my mind was it's not about ranking, it's about how much you resonate or how close you are in that given point of time with the person.
Mhm.
So, like, I remember I got so many requests from my other group of friends when I created my third account. Yet I did not approve their follow request because I feel like they don't know who I am today. Today, I am a very different person than what I was 3 months ago or 3 years ago. I'm obviously not the same person. And so the people who know me today, they follow my third account. And I feel like that's what goes through my mind, not about a certain ranking of friends. It's about how close I am today to a certain person. So yeah.
See how wonderful this is. Now, what Zia said, and imagine in this scenario, Zias and you were the two friends who have been sending each other these requests, right?
Yeah.
The entire, you know, process of sending and waiting and being apprehensive and waiting, if not waiting, then feeling the sadness that comes with not being accepted. Imagine if you two were the friends who had these expectations of each other, and instead of being on so doing, you know, going out and befriending each other on social media, you were having this conversation as well. I'm not saying not at the I'm not talking about doing away with social media. I'm saying if this conversation, uh, if you were the two friends in the context of the scenario and you were talking to each other as well along with sending that friend request, what Zias felt might not have been as saddening as it sounded,
Yeah.
Right.
when he took us
Yeah.
through his story. It's such a simple emotion, right? It's such a simple emotion where you're saying, hey, you're a friend from this phase of my life. You're a friend from my most current phase of life. You're a friend from out of school, so you cannot be part of the school group of friends, etc. uh, no, this only happened because we are having this conversation.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
How often are we having these conversations which are beyond the screen, the access device that I'm sitting in front of? So we, I think we were the from here we can go to that. We were talking about this a while back with the two of you. We're saying that healthy balance between offline and online, right?
Hmm.
Saying that friendships have now become relegated to various online apps, including WhatsApp, Instagram. I'm sure there is a TikTok in there, etc., etc. And how many of these relationships are also have a 30, maybe 60% online, but is there a 40% offline way of connecting as well, on the same issues that are there? Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was a great example of how the other person is thinking and how you are not able to connect to that thinking because this is all online. It's impossible to do this conversation entirely online. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So ask me what you want to ask.
Okay, so now I think we can move on to a little bit more about social media and establishing those healthy boundaries between um you know just social media and who we are as a person in real life. Because if I'm being honest, I know people who are completely different online and offline, and to develop that kind of healthy boundary is important to see, are we truly being ourselves on there? So moving on with that, as well as just the main question of how can we establish these healthy boundaries, is I think what we should move on to next. So
Sure. Let me start with asking you, either of you. Yes, you can go first. What have you tried, and at points of life when you have perhaps have got totally sucked into being on social media more often than you yourself may like, what have you tried to do to de-escalate the usage? What have you tried to uh, do to help yourself in a
Right.
scenario like that?
So, first I'll just give some examples of what have actually happened to me by getting,
Mm.
sucked into social media. Um, whether it's like just a random weekend, when I said, you know what is a weekend, I've finished my work and I've earned it to just scroll for a little bit on Instagram, for it to going from a little bit meaning 10 to 15 minutes to still that little bit now meaning 4 to 5 hours endlessly lying in bed, not realizing
Yeah.
what the time's gone by. And now my parents are asking me what's for dinner when I literally thought I had lunch about 5 minutes ago. And it
Mm.
really makes you lose the track of time when you're on there continuously scrolling, because that short form content is just feeding your brain with happy hormones to the point where you don't know when to stop and you don't want to stop. Um,
Right.
and it's not just that, it's like even before sleeping, I know that I should keep a rule of not using my phone 1 to 2 hours before bed. And right up until bed, I've maintained that rule. If I plan that, okay, tonight I'm gonna sleep at midnight because I have some work to do, I'm gonna finish that and then head to bed. And I do keep my phone aside at 10 p.m. and I stick by that. That I know I can manage. But right around 12 o'clock, when I say, okay, this is my time to sleep, my 2 hours are done, I've finished my work, I'll then quickly say, you know what, let's just see if anyone texted me. Maybe they want to meet up next weekend. Maybe some news must be on Instagram. I can just scroll through for 5 minutes to see what's up. And that 5 minutes ends up into it being 1:30, maybe even 2 o'clock. And I'm now
Mm.
struggling to put my phone down. My eyes are watering. And I'm lying in bed. My hand is tired from holding my phone. But I'm still just like, you know what? It's fine. Future me is problem. I can just keep scrolling right now. It's not gonna hurt me right now. And then in that moment, I'm just like, what am I doing? Like when I turn off my phone, sometimes it'll even die on me, and I'll be like, I used my phone up until the point it died. Like that's how badly I was sucked into scrolling. And so, yeah, I think that's one of the things I've tried, which hasn't worked out that well, which was to set a time that I will not use my phone. And the only thing I struggled with was after, even though I stuck to the time, right after the time got over, I went back to the phone. So I think that's
Mm.
one thing that I have tried that could have gone well if I just had some self-control after my, you know, quote unquote time that I promised myself was over.
Okay. Akansha, how about you? What have you tried?
Okay, so I'll just start with a little bit of history before I get into what I'm about to say, because it might sound a little mean, but it's not. So basically, when I actually like initially got my phone, I was around 10. And I used to have video like, apps like YouTube, Prime Video, or all those streaming apps. And around like 10:30, 11, when like the whole house used to like fall asleep, I used to, binge my favorite show maybe or something like that. And then my dad, who used to come back home late from work at around that time, he used to come into my room and then he used to like take my phone and then go away. And because it was an iPhone, he was able to start putting parental controls on the phone. So now I've had parental controls on my phone since I was 10 and I'm 17 right now. So for the past 7 years, like obviously I didn't have social media when I was 10. I was not allowed that. But all these like just using my mobile phone in general, I had a time restriction. After about like when I was 10, after about 9 o'clock, my phone used to be like every app used to be shut down. It used to be a downtime. If I had to use anything, it used to be by my parents' permission.
Mm.
So over the years, like, after I turned 13, my parents let me have social media and things like that. And after I got social media, they set up a time limit for the app. So, like for
Mm.
example, Instagram during the vacation might be 2 hours a day, and on a normal like school day, it would probably be like 15-20 minutes a day. So, I was not obviously able to restrict myself. Like, it's not something I took upon, but it's something my parents have done for me. And I think it really helped because right now, today, I can tell you, I don't have any time limits on my phone anymore. Like they've all been taken down. Like I don't have it. Yet my dad has still continued to put the downtime for me. It's 11 o'clock. I can't use my phone past 11.
Mhm.
Um, but I know that it has worked because over time, like my Instagram went for 15 minutes a day to right now I have access for it like all day long. But I know I don't use it because I've gotten used to having that limited time on Instagram. So I think that's what's really helped me over the years, because for 6 years, let's say, I've had those parental controls, and that has really helped me establish the boundaries for myself today.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm amazed that your parents were able to do it and you yourself see the benefit of it. Now, what if we were to transfer this? This is a great example of parents putting boundaries and it working well for you. And sadly, it does not always work for every every kid whose parents are watching their, I know of so many softwares that are spying on their kids usage, etc., etc. I use the word spying because that's how I see it. That's how I am told that this whole story, right? In your case, such a positive impact it has had for you in terms of building a habit,
Yeah.
building sort of checks and balance for usage for yourself. So it's almost like your uh, body shuts down or your interest shuts down in a way
Yeah.
at 11, before you go to bed. What if we were, and Zia's, this question is for you, it took 6 years of parents putting boundaries for you to, for Akansha to, get into this sort of actually uh, realizing the impact of it in the most positive manner. What is the longest that we can self-regulate? When I say self-regulate, I'm saying, Zeus, you spoke about, you talked about how you put time boundaries on your day, etc., etc., right? Do you know of anyone who's been able to delete the app during a crucial period in their life? For example, exams are coming, right? And you say, hey, this app is doing no good for me. And for the next maybe 15 days before the exams are due, you say, okay, I'm just going to delete this app. Yeah, I'm just trying to replicate what Akansha shared in the form of saying, hey, how can I self-regulate? How can I set
Right.
my own boundaries without my parents having to do it? So would you know of anyone who has done it and it has, been beneficial?
Yeah, surely. So actually, I was very excited to answer this question because as Akanksha was speaking, something came into my mind where I know of friends, of course, as you said, who deleted social media, mainly Instagram, of course, during peak exam time,
Mm.
to focus on their studies and really make sure that, you know what, at least now I can lock in and get that good grade that I want, that universities want to see, that my parents want to see, my teachers want to see, and mainly that's just going to do me better instead of spending 2 hours a day on, or 3 hours a day, or 4 hours, or
Right.
even more on Instagram, which is going to do no one better. And
Mm.
I don't have a specific scenario in which it helps someone, but I do know that whoever did take Instagram off their phone, it did benefit them. Personally speaking, I had a similar experience with the application Snapchat. So I installed Snapchat and
Mhm.
I've been using it for quite a while, I'd say. Maybe give or take um a month to maybe three max. I don't think it went beyond November, December. And yeah, okay, now that I think about it, maybe 5 to 6 months. But the point was that I got on Snapchat, because quite a few of my friends when I went to Brown Summer School had Snapchat, and to this day they still have the main form of our communication on there to keep in touch is that Snapchat group chat, which I have since not been a part of now that I've deleted the application, and I'll tell you why. The reason I deleted Snapchat was because it was simply another social media gimmick, which after realizing what I did on it each day, I realized I am getting zero benefit out of it. And not to
Mm.
the point
Mm.
of, oh, it's gonna hurt my brain or it's gonna, mess with my uh, attention span, or it's gonna keep me online rather than letting me do work. That all is, I mean, present in every social media application, but specific to Snapchat, what I realized was the only real use I had of it was every day taking a picture, putting a little S on it, and sending it to whoever was in my Snap list. Now, the significance of the S, if you didn't know, is basically to signify a streak. People send each other daily messages on Snapchat with a photo with an S on it, or just typed an S, to keep this so-called streak which they want with the other person, to see how long they can text each other without missing a day. And once you get on Snapchat, they keep you enticed and keep you motivated by giving you 10 free streak refills, and then you can pay for even more for those who've had an even longer streak who don't want to lose it. And the crazy thing about it is I know people with uh they have this thing called snap score, which is how much you snap, right? How many photos you send, how much you interact with the application. And I know people at this age with 1 million, 2 million snap score. And I'm pretty sure after the 6 months, I had about 2,300 something snap score, because I sent about one picture to one person every day just to keep that streak. And I realized I am achieving nothing by keeping the streak. Sure, it's a cool thing to keep in mind that, you know what, I've been texting this person for 71 days straight. But what more to that? Then I thought, okay, let's delete it. Let me see what happens. I deleted it. And to this day, I think the only regret I have with it is that I'm not able to keep in touch with my brown friends who don't really, I don't have their US numbers. I don't have
Mm.
their Instagrams as much because they're not as active. I know a friend of mine from Brown who's a junior. I know people who are seniors who are going into university next year. And all of it was like, we are all able to keep it on that one group chat. And now it's kind of all separate because we don't have that group chat. But other than that, I really don't miss anything about Snapchat. And if that one group chat could be on WhatsApp or Instagram, then there'd literally be zero reason for me to keep the application. And that streak, which I was so desperate, and which I know so many people are so desperate to keep, I translated it for another streak, which is now currently, I'm sitting at about, I think, 512, 513 days. And it's a Duolingo streak. And that lets me learn a language that I really enjoy. And at the same time, it motivates me by giving me that streak feature that Snapchat had for something useless. So with
Mm.
Duolingo, how I got into it is, I am a big Max Verstappen fan in Formula One, and I always wanted to visit the Netherlands. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to teach myself Dutch. And the easiest way to do that is to do a quick 3 to 5 minute lesson per day on Duolingo, instead of wasting my time
Mhm.
on Instagram and using my phone for an actual productive purpose. And it's
Amazing.
giving me rewards and pushing me and motivating me to the point where I started using it for school, for Spanish, while also slightly balancing my Dutch. So now I know how to speak English, of course, Hindi, of course, Marathi because of school, that's okay. And yes, I had to speak Spanish and learn it either way for school, but this just makes it fun and a learning experience that I can actually enjoy. And on top
Beautiful.
of that, I get to speak a language that I don't know anyone speaks in this country, at least. And I got to do it through a fun method on my phone. So I got several benefits, like being off harmful apps, being on a learning useful app, while also getting one of my interests out of the way. And it was, I think, killing three birds at least that way with one stone for me.
Good. Great sharing. Great example of all that you said. Yeah, great example of self-regulation. Yeah, when beyond the age when our parents ought not regulate us, then we are have to self-regulate, or we,
Right.
there's no end to this addiction. Secondly, you have transferred your passion for Formula One, you said, right?
Right.
You've transferred your passion for it from screen to an app, possibly,
Yeah.
which gives it back to you. You're not just a passive consumer of Formula
Yeah.
One.
Exactly.
Are now almost in in an ecosystem where you will be able to understand the game, and like you said, the day you are able to travel, visit, watch, right, in person, you will be able to use what you learn from Duolingo. So I think another question that uh, I think we were discussing, what are the various ways of this online offline balance, right? And most of you have a passion, right? For some it's music, for some it's like you say, Formula One. Akansha, what is your one passion that you could talk about?
It's music. I recently just started sharing like my personal written songs on my Instagram. So it's
Beautiful.
kind of that.
So suppose you begin, yeah, the beginning of the passion is online. For for most of you in this generation, it all because you encounter something for the first time online, which was very different for us when we were growing up, right? And rather than a passion, a hobby remaining online, uh, or just remaining limited to online, uh, figure out ways of expanding that passion, right? Uh, Zeus, of course, you're using an app to learn the language to help your passion, you know.
Yeah,
However, it's learning. It's something. It's not a passive act. It's an active engagement with
right.
a new something that you're learning. Similarly, in the case of music, uh, you know, you will be possibly, Akansha, you may be jamming with your friends offline, right? You may be eventually, performing on stage or performing uh, in a house concert or whatever it is that are those are various offline on ground people who will touch and say, hey, great, well done, you know, that kind of a thing. So when we talk about online offline balance, the same idea can be replicated beyond the four walls of a screen of an access device. And that itself is a great balance because not only of course online is not all bad. You know, your first encounter with so many things, for us also in this generation, first encounter with so many things happens online. But consciously, the again, it's a part of setting the boundary again, or it's a part of expanding the boundary of that not an addiction but a hobby or a passion, which you do by uh, almost by design expanding e- e- expanding yourself beyond just this immersion, screen immersion. You know, it cannot, everything that we like on screen can have a extended version, can have a offline version, can have an on ground version. So consciously we can do that. At least that's something that uh, suppose somebody loves what can I say, watching these memes or what, you know, the entire feed that comes up on Instagram, for example, right? How can you go and physically meet some of these people? Yeah, I know of someone who has actually started creating these Instagram reels with a bunch of people. They go around the city and they sort of take videos and shots and all, and they create of course they're funny ones, so they uh, without going into the details of all those things, they actually have a very very robust offline version of those, so they are now creators in a sense, and a couple of those kids are actually thinking of taking it up as uh, uh, into an advertising or a content creation kind of a career. Okay, so it's the whole idea was born online, but it need not remain online, right? And that's where the whole concept of offline and online balance comes in. Anything else that comes to mind when we talk of balance, Akansha?
I think uh, I agree with you and the points that you have discussed with us. Um, I don't have much to say about this because I, being 17 on Instagram and Snapchat and everything, I think what I feel like about my music. So I posted it on my close account, like for my close friends. And it's because I'm not like, I don't feel brave enough or confident enough to, give it to a bigger range of people. Like, I have about 500 people following me on my main account, but on my private account, I have like 25, I think.
Mhm.
So, giving my something so personal to me to those 25 people was only possible through an online mode. And
Yeah.
if I were to convert this passion of mine to a more offline mode, it makes it so much more overwhelming and anxiety ridden, at least for me as a person. And so that's the reason I chose the online mode to kind of just like put myself out there a little, but also like um shortening the border to where how many people can see the song, so it's kind of like the fear of being judged maybe, or the fear of not being good enough or something like that. So yeah. and
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
uh
that's a very sensible choice of the medium you have. As long as we, uh, firstly, understand this as a medium that can help us rather than pull us in. It has to be something that we choose rather than something that chooses us
yeah.
as the audience, right? Most often, getting pulled into those reels is the medium choosing us.
Hmm.
In a way, we become victims of the content, right? uh,
Yeah.
Very often, there's a established trend that when someone is feeling anxious as well, the scrolling happens then.
Yeah.
Most often we think that scrolling gives us relaxation, but really what we are doing is that is the moment when it's a process. It's more like emotional numbing rather than processing the anxiety or the feeling that has pulled me to do the scrolling, right? We are choosing to scroll because it's distracting me. It's giving me relaxation to a huge amount, but it's distracting me. I'm not really processing through my emotions. I'm numbing my emotions. Yeah,
Hmm.
which has impact later because at that moment, whatever I was feeling, I chose not to deal with it. I chose not to think about it, process it. When we say process, we ask the question of what am I feeling? Why am I feeling this? Who am I feeling this against? What can I do about it, right? Instead of going that route, we've chosen to be a passive. We've chosen a passive medium to distract ourselves because that's giving us a momentary relaxation. Yeah, and most often those emotions are bottling up and erupting at a later stage. That's a very far more serious aspect of what it can do, social media can do. But this is what is happening. So yeah, having the key to the usage is beyond the age when parents are setting boundaries, then beyond that, finding the key to make the choice to use social media for our benefit, just like you, Zia, spoke about, in case of the language, just like you, Akansha, you spoke about using it to launch your music to a select audience who you are most comfortable with. And in fact, you need the to be behind the screen even now, that need that you're feeling, uh, to release it to 25 of your closest friends yet not perform in front of them is a valuable need. It's a valid need, and you are responding to that need. But you're only comfortable with those 25 at the moment, and it's a very sort of considered uh, choice that you've made. So yeah, this is a huge example of balancing it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I think it's very important to kind of, even personally, just stop and think and realize if you're using social media as a coping mechanism for a negative reason, or if it's actually genuinely having a positive effect on your life. Because I know there are positive effects of social media, as Akanksha just mentioned, where she has the opportunity to now release her musical talent to only a few close members, who she wants
Absolutely.
it to be released to. It also helps, for me personally, network, because there's a concept of mutuals right now. So if someone follow requests me, or if I get, Instagram gives you people they think you should be following, so it gives you follower recommendations. And under those, if you swipe through, a large majority of what it's based on is if more people who follow you follow them. If more posts and reels and stories you've interacted with are of people that also follow that person, they'll recommend you to follow that person as well. And
Mhm.
so a big part of whether you accept a follow request or whether you send one out is, how do I know this person? And 99% of the time, it's when that person is a friend of a friend, or a friend of a friend of a friend. And this just creates a huge network of people who you kind of barely know, but you
Mm.
know will get to know really well. For example, I know people who have randomly accepted the request because I know about 10 to 15 other people who also follow that person, because it shows at the bottom when someone's requesting you. And I accepted them, and I saw on his stories, that he's also a fellow fan of Formula One, and so I could react to one of his stories and say, oh, this happened, that happened, and we could have, a proper conversation or a discussion about something that happened in the race or qualifying or something like that. And through that, I was able to make a new friend
Mm.
who could possibly be a really good friend of mine today. And I do have a couple of friends like that who are only online now. The worry is that this stays only online. Even though online friendships can be good, it is important to, develop an offline alternative to that as well. And so maintaining that balance is important. For example, um, I recently made friends with two people who I got introduced to through Instagram. So
Mhm.
one person follow requested me, and she had mutuals with me with two, three of my other friends. So I accepted it. And another friend of hers requested me, who again was part of that same group. And I was able to meet them both, to have some fun by going to the arcade recently. I actually went to in Orbit Mall today to meet with one of them, just to catch up and meet them in real life. And it was such a pleasurable experience, because it was from just meeting them to challenging them head to head in an arcade. It goes from being an awkward first experience, because it is kind of like meeting someone for the first time, but then to see that, hey, I've known this person online, I'm getting to know them now, we both seem to know each other really well, and it's going to be amazing. And that's how you know that's the positive side of social media as well, which can develop these kinds of friendships.
Yeah, as long as the usage, so I think we could net it off as it's a considered a conscious uh, usage that is not bad at all. It's
Yeah,
a choice that you're making, and of course, you're establishing. You're meeting people for the first time. You're meeting ideas, many ideas for the first time. So how can it be bad?
right.
But
Hmm.
when those ideas start using you, in a sense, when I say ideas, when it's content, right? When those ideas are using you, and when those people are using you, I mean, we'll not even go into the space of the lurkers online, right? That's another conversation altogether. But if they start using you, then you are a victim of social media. Then you're no longer a user who's using it to your own benefit. So I think that's the fine line we need to um, walk. And I think most of you are doing very well on that. It was great to know that you're able to discern between what is useful and what is not. And I think all of us, especially you guys, will have moments when you'll get pulled in. But as long as you are able to know that you're getting pulled in first, and you're able to pull back, like switching off at 11, like possibly deleting some of the apps at the peak
Yep.
exam months. And I think then you're very, very self-regulated users.
Yeah.
Kudos to you.
I think, yeah, today was a really helpful, informative, enriching session. And we were able to touch upon several topics, like effective strategies for, us to responsibly manage and use social media, for, maintaining boundaries, establishing, more importantly, healthy boundaries, not just any boundaries, for developing a healthy balance between online and offline relationships, social media usage, And making sure that, like you mentioned, the 60/40 ratio, making sure that at least there is some sort of offline activity happening in your life. And this digital age of social media where everyone has a smartphone, everyone's online more than offline, which is
Yeah.
actually pretty scary. And of course, what we started with, the warning signs that really indicate that a child may be experiencing some negative effects on social media. And after today's discussions, and even you asking us the questions, it really helped us reflect on our own life experiences, our own situations, to see exactly what's happening and with our own lives, and making us look inward. And of course, those who will be listening in and or watching this, to look inwards towards themselves with all these questions, to really figure out what they want, what they are, how they can help themselves. I think would is really going to be beneficial towards that. So thank you so much for helping us out today. And if you'd like to give us any ending notes to anyone who's listening into this.
Ending notes for social media or for young adults?
For young adults, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think ending notes is could be that you, even if you can't control the wind, you can adjust the sail. Isn't there a saying like that? Yeah.
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 You can't control the wind of social media, right? It's there, it's pervasive, but let it not take over.
Yep.
Yeah, we can always adjust ourselves. Each of us have different needs. Adjust our needs and just take that much out of it. Also take some pleasure and relaxation out of it, but then not let it carry us off
Definitely.
into the deep waters. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Akanksha, do
Thanks.
you have
Great
anything to say?
meeting you guys. Akansha, lovely meeting you,
It was
and
nice.
hope to listen to your song. Is that a song, or did you
There
say
are quite a few songs that I've written. Yeah.
hope to receive or watch you sometime online? And maybe you will send me one
Maybe. Maybe.
recording. Maybe. And Zeus, I'm glad you're also learning online or learning a new language. Hope you can visit the country that you want to, and practice this learning there
Yeah.
with people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
Thank you
for
It was
so
really,
much.
really helpful.
It was a really good talk. Yeah.
it was great to talk to you. I mean, I didn't know many things about social media, especially the one about Snapchat. I so didn't know that there was things happening with S written on them. So great learning. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so
Thank you so
much.
much.
See you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.